Hello. Today I'm making a video about how to clean your bike, a dirty, messy bike, inside when you don't have access to the hose. This is the State All-Road, which I did a review of in my previous video, and it's gotten pretty muddy in my first about 2 weeks of riding it, and I'm really loving this bike. The review, maybe I didn't really express how much fun I'm having on this bike, as you can probably see by the amount of mud and dirt. So it's December, it's about 20 degrees outside, and there's a lot of snow out there, so there's no way I'm going to be cleaning this bike outside today. Sometimes it's recommended that you clean a bike as soon as you're done riding it, and there's definitely value to doing so. However, in the winter, when you can't really clean a bike outside, if it's covered in mud and you attempt to clean it while that mud is still wet, you end up kind of like wiping it all over the place and sort of making more of a mess. So my preferred method is to give it a day, let it dry, and until it just becomes dirt, and then it wipes off much easier, much less of a mess. So that's the first step. Just grab a rag, a dry rag, and start wiping off all the big dirt. Actually, that's the second step. First step is take off all the bags and water bottles, anything on the bike. So I'll do all that and then get to wiping. So if you have a bike stand, a work stand, that really makes this process a lot easier. If you don't, you can still be completely effective just working with your bike on the ground. One thing just to get set up that I like to do is put a piece of cardboard on the ground. It makes it easier to sweep up when you're done. Okay, bags and bottles and lights are off, and we're ready to get wiping. It's nice if you got a pile of rags around. Use one that's already kind of dirty for this. You don't need to get a new rag all covered in dirt. So save the clean rag for later on when we're making the final touches. So now that this is all dry, it really just wipes right off. In some hard to reach places, like around the crank, in between, these gaps here, something you can do is pass the rag through and do what's called flossing, where you just sort of pass it through there. You can get all those little harder to reach spots very fast and effectively, rather than trying to kind of wipe through. That's same thing inside here. So just after the preliminary wipe down, the bike's looking pretty good. That really does a lot. But now we want to get into actually cleaning and lubricating. A quick tip: if your front wheel is sort of flopping around in the process, you can take anything you've got, like a piece of Velcro, string, whatever. I like these straps. They're really convenient for so many different things. And this just secures the wheel to the frame, so it's not, your fork and handlebars won't be flopping all over. It just keeps everything steady. Then if you need to rotate the wheel again to get back into cleaning, just undo that and let it be free. Two products I recommend for cleaning your bike. Number one is this Moby concentrated bike cleaner. You take some of this and mix it with water in its own spray bottle. The ratio is on the back. So that works really well. It's pretty cheap. And then the other one that I really like is this Pedro's Bike Lust. I I think it's a little bit more expensive, but it's pre-mixed, it's ready to go, and it leaves a really nice, it's also a silicone polish, so it leaves a nice shiny protective layer on the bike, makes it shed mud and dirt more easily as you continue to ride, and just an added layer of protection on the paint. And either of these products or any other product you use, I really recommend spraying it on the rag first and then polishing the bike, cleaning the bike that way. Just much more efficient use of the product, and you're not spraying it all over the place, in the air, on the ground, whatever. It's just right on the rag, right to the bike. So that's the way to go. Also, either of these and both of these you can use, and I recommend using, everywhere on the bike except for the chain and the brake rotors and pads. You don't want to, this stuff will make the brakes not stick and stop so well. Definitely avoid that. And then the chain, will use a chain lube for that instead. Yep, let's get to it. The Pedro's silicone polish is also really nice for everything rubbery. The cable housing, wipe all that down. It gives it a nice coating. You can use it, you should definitely use it on your rims, gets those nice and protected, and the spokes. I still got to do the spokes here, but also the tires. Maybe not on knobby tires, you wouldn't do the top, but do the sides. Just kind of helps them stay fresh. So my previous video was a review of this bike, the State All-Road 4130, and I was pretty critical of a few detail-oriented type things with the assembly. I want to actually compliment them on a few other things which I like how they did. So they lined up the valve hole of the rim there with the logo on the rim and the logo on the tire, something that doesn't matter at all in functionality, but just it's a nice aesthetic. It shows attention to detail. And in the wheel build, the valve hole lines up with the logo on the hub. So front and rear, they did all of that. That's nice. And another thing that I like, just as far as maintenance and keeping things running smoothly, is the full-length cable housing. So there's no exposed cable. The housing runs all the way to the rear brake and the derailleur. So, nothing to get rusty more quickly exposed to the elements and stuff. So that's nice for improved maintenance and kind of weatherproofing. These mechanical disc brakes, they're the Promax 330R, I guess, or the Promax mechanical disc brakes, which I talked about how they don't have very much modulation. They're very much not doing anything and then locking up. So the brakes, I will definitely be upgrading. I do like that they're mechanical disc brakes for the type of bike that this is, kind of an adventure, all-road backpacking type bike. Don't have to deal with hydraulics. Maintenance is much simpler, straightforward. Infield repairs are easier to deal with. You can always carry an extra cable, not have to worry about trying to bleed brakes if they're hydraulic. So the brakes that I would like to upgrade them to are these Yokozuna Ultimos, which I have on a different bike, and they're phenomenal. They're also mechanical cable actuated disc brakes, but within the caliper it's a hydraulic cylinder in there, so you get an incredible amount of stopping power, really nice modulation, and still super simple adjustment and repair. Now that we're ready to get into cleaning the chain, we want to have the chain on the smallest cog gear, the highest gear. So shift all the way up. Just takes all of the tension off of the derailleur and off of the cable. Everything's still pretty clean here. Brand new drivetrain, just has, I guess, maybe 115 miles on it or so. really not too bad. The factory lube that comes on the chain is always the best, so I'm not going to go crazy cleaning the chain. I will just use a few drops of this ProLink chain lube, which I like. I'll clean the pulley wheels. And then the chain itself. So for that, basically just hold it right here. Pinching the chain in the rag and just run the chain backwards through there a few times. And that'll take off any excess grime or dirt, but it's really not too bad. And I don't want to go crazy and strip any more of the lube off. So that'll do it. This baby's all cleaned up and shining bright. So that's how I like to clean a dirty bike in the winter when you're working inside and you can't just spray it off right when you're done riding and wash off that mud. I let it dry, then it really wipes off no problem, and then you clean the bike the same way you normally would. And one last thing I'm going to do on this bike, since it's very new and I noticed some paint scuffing from my handlebar bag and how that was velcroed on in a few places. Got a little bit of scuffs. So I'm going to put some protective tape on any of those high contact areas, and then also on the top of the chainstay here. Oftentimes the chain bounces as you're going over rough terrain, and if it slaps on this, it'll take a little bit of paint off. So bummer to see that. I wish I put the tape on before riding, but I was just eager to get out there and put some miles on this bike. So I'm gonna do it now. It's not a big deal. I could always touch it up in the future if I really want to. But that plastic clear tape, which is, this is what I'm using. It's not super cheap. I think this roll maybe was like 20 bucks or something, but it'll do several bikes. And I have some on the Soma here, so just wrapped around anywhere that the cables will be touching, along the top of the chainstay. And you don't really see it when it's on unless you're looking closely. I put some on the underside of the down tube on this bike as well. You can sort of see that seam, but yeah, just a great way to protect your bike from anything that will damage the paint. Cables rubbing on it, bags rubbing on it, the chain, rocks, gravel flying up and chipping the paint. So good way to go to protect your paint job. That's it for now, and I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.